Welcome to Straightforward Conversation. My guest tonight is Scott Pauley, Sanitarian for the Athens County Health Department. Scott's job is to promote recycling and litter control, to research and collect evidence to prosecute court cases for littering and illegal dumping, to do presentations on recycling and litter control, and to organize clean sweep and alternative sentencing programs for litter pickup, and to conduct statistical analysis. Scott has a Bachelor of Science degree from Ashland University and has served as Sanitarian for the City of Athens since July of 1995. Welcome, Scott.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tonight we're going to talk about the City Sanitarian and what job and function you have as City Sanitarian. I think maybe the audience might be interested in starting the discussion tonight by just having you tell us basically what is your job and what do you do?
Well, I started out as a sanitarian in July '94, and basically what a sanitarian does is enforce state codes, inspections of either food service inspections, illegal dump sites, promotes public health, basically, is what a sanitarian does. But my job specifically with the city is to promote recycling, education, and litter control in downtown Athens. So
I think you told me earlier before the show started that you look for illegal dump sites.
Right.
What would an illegal dump site be in Athens?
Well, in Athens, basically within the city of limits of Athens, I don't find a lot of illegal dump sites, but what we do find is a lot of theft of service. Within the city of Athens, a lot of people don't use their own trash pickup or their own hauling. They typically take it to some other place, some other person's dumpsters, and basically throw their trash in that dumpster, and of course that's illegal. And so that's basically what we find a lot here in Athens. Also, regular littering is a problem.
How would you go about if you suspected somebody was using my trash cans for their personal uses? How would you go about catching that person?
Well, I don't want to give away any secrets about how I do. No, basically is most of the time you'll either have eyewitnesses of the action, or you can find most of the time a name where they left their trash behind, pizza boxes I love to see. Those types of things is how we basically go around searching for evidence.
And if you find that kind of evidence, what would you do with it?
Well, I'd write up a complaint, and I'd sign the complaint form and take it to the county courthouse and register that complaint. And then they would get summoned into court and have a plea, what their plea would be. And the judge would then set the court date, of course, and then we'd basically just go to court, and I'd present the case that I have in front of me, either illegal dumping, littering, theft of service, those types of things. And the judge would hear the case, and he would decide whether that was them who actually did it or what this case was.
And if they're found guilty, would we assume they'd just pay a fine? Would they go to jail?
Well, that's of course up to the judge. Most of the time, since I've been on, he's been prosecuting them with a fine, jail sentence, and then suspended the jail time, but then added on community service, which I think definitely needs to be done.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. Scott and I will return after this commercial break. When we return, I want to talk about the recycling program that we have here in Athens. Welcome back to Straightforward Conversation. My guest this evening is Scott Pauley of the Athens County Health Department. Scott, before the break, I was about to ask you about recycling and how it's encouraged in Athens City. I think Athens may even be somewhat of a model program in the state of Ohio. How do we go about encouraging people to recycle in Athens?
Well, you're absolutely right. I was saying that Athens is a model in the state of Ohio. Basically how recycling got started in the city of Athens and in Athens County is back in 1981-82, a group of members called Sraight, Southeastern Ohio Recycling Terminal, got together and began noticing how much solid waste was going into our landfills, and they realized that they thought that maybe recycling would probably be a pretty good option. And, so they started holding recycling drives, Athens County Ultimate Recycling Days. And before long, the litter control came into play with recycling. And in 1984 was when the first state of Ohio recycling started in Athens. Athens had the first curbside recycling program in the state of Ohio. It started in April 1984. So you're absolutely right saying that Athens is a model program. And we always get people calling up saying, ask how we did it. And it was basically a group of people who...
If my memory serves me right, we started off, I think, as a voluntary program. Later, I think City Council mandated a fee for recycling in Athens, whether or not you were actually recycling.
Right.
And I think then later, didn't they couple that with a limitation on the number of bags of garbage that you could put out?
Right.
So it became a kind of a forced incentive program. if you
Well,
will.
it's a mandatory voluntary type thing, I guess you can call it. Nobody likes to use the word mandatory. But it's based on the pay-as-you-throw system for your solid waste collection. And recycling cannot be supported by itself. The commodities market for the recycling, you cannot, through the sale of recyclables, support a recycling program.
I've heard people say for years that, people probably not in the know, but people saying that recycling in Athens doesn't really go to recycling and just ends up in a landfill in a different direction. Is that really the case?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, if anybody ever wants to go out to the recycling center, it's out on State Route 13 near Chansey. And I think when they started out with 4 employees out there. Today there's over 22 full-time employees with benefits, and it keeps on going up. When I started in July, we only had, I think, 18. So it keeps on going as the education keeps on going.
So there are markets out there for these things that we're recycling.
Right, absolutely. Those are getting shipped to anywhere from Zanesville to Indiana, Pennsylvania. They'll buy the products, and they will get recycled. They go right back into the...
What kind of participation are we enjoying in Athens among the permanent residents, for instance?
Oh, extremely high.
Would you say more than 60%?
I don't have any very good, well, I don't know what you would call them, percentages on those, but I would say it's quite high. People in Athens, in 1984, 83, people were paying anywhere between $9 and $13, anywhere between there for the garbage collection. Today they're paying $4.50 plus a $2 recycling fee. So that's quite a bit of savings. I think I just multiplied that out the other day. That's anywhere between $2 million and $2.5 million of savings just for Athens, the city of Athens.
If I were converted now as a believer, listening to you, and I want to start recycling, what would I have to do to prepare what might be considered garbage that's recyclable for recycling? Would I have to wash the containers? Do I have to separate it? What all do I have to do?
Right. Source separation is the key to recycling. It's just like separating out your laundry at home between your whites and your darks and your mixed colors and your grays. The same goes with your garbage and recyclable materials. You want the cardboard to be separated, put in separate bags. You want the mixed paper to be in mixed bags. You want the white paper to be in white papers, your aluminum in paper bags. So all those different items that are recyclable in Athens, you definitely want to have them source separated into different bags and set out on the day of your
Is there anything that's not recyclable currently in Athens, other than pure garbage, of course?
Well, there's a lot of things that aren't, but there's a lot of things that are.
I mean, is there
Such
things
as
recyclable
plastic.
that might be recyclable, say, in another community?
Not really. I think that we have the top-of-the-line market available to us in Athens. Plastics number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7s, they're not recyclable. 1 and 2s are, and those are basically the milk jugs, the pop bottles, detergent bottles, and those types of things. So basically, Athens has a top-of-line market as far as a lot of things can be recycled. Anywhere from, like I said, the steel cans, the IBM card file folders, shredded paper, those can be recycled. So, yeah, we definitely have the top-of-line market.
Now, when we talk recycling, we're normally talking about things that people identify with the household items of plastics, tin, aluminum, those kind of things. But would you also categorize things like leaves and trees as being, tree limbs as being recyclable?
Well, those are recyclable. Everything's recyclable. In fact, it's a law of nature. When you die, you're going to be ultimately recycled into the earth. So
does Athens have a program? I think they do. And
they do have a yard waste. I'm not sure exactly what our percentile of participation is at, but they have the Christmas tree recycling program. And we're currently looking into expanding that into composting and yard waste to get some of that out of our waste stream here in Athens. So those are definitely recyclable, but on what level, especially here in Athens, it hasn't come around as quickly as we have.
Is it possible in the future that we're going to be able to get in a situation where we can actually compost on our own lots garbage items now that are placed in garbage, food items, things that would decompose pretty quickly?
We can do that here right now, just as long as it doesn't get out of control in people's backyards. Doing the correct steps for composting, we have plenty of literature on that, and we'd be happy to give that out to anybody at any time. But you can definitely, nowadays we have vermiculture, which is a new product on the market, which is basically worm.
A live worm?
Yes, live red worms, basically earthworms that eat your garbage. That'll compost your garbage and eat your garbage. So it's kind of a disgusting thought when you think about it, but it works very well.
And what happens to the worms? They just get bigger and bigger?
They keep on getting bigger and bigger, and they multiply.
What's the difference between, say, garbage and refuge? We hear those terminologies thrown around, and people might not know what they are. What's refuge and what's garbage?
Gee, that's a good question. Refuse is another term for garbage.
Is refuge, as the city sometimes uses it in our code, referred to bigger items like building materials or a couch or a refrigerator or something of those nature?
Those are items that won't be picked up on the garbage route. I guess you can call those refuse materials. But they can get recycled on Ultimate Recycling Day, Athens County Ultimate Recycling Days, where we'll accept anywhere from scrap tires to used motor oil, antifreeze, paint, used paint, washers, dryers, old freezers. So those types of materials, if you can hang on to those until we have the Ultimate Recycling Days, which we have 2 a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. So those are your chances to get rid of those. But you can't be setting those out on your regular garbage collection routes.
Well, stay tuned. Scott and I'll be back after this commercial break. When we return, I want to ask him about clean sweep programs in Athens County, and follow up with a discussion on what happens to the recycled products that we have here in Athens. Welcome back to Straightforward Conversation. My guest this evening is Scott Pauley of the Athens County City County Health Department. Scott, before the break, I was about to ask you about I think it's a fairly new program in Athens. It's called the Athens Clean Sweep Program. What exactly is that?
Well, that was started about, I think, 2 years back, and the program is basically a volunteer program where, local organizations, individuals can donate their time to help beautify their city for one day, a couple hours. And we've been fortunate enough to have the city of Athens donate their crews to go around and pick up the trash that has been collected. And the first year We didn't have very many volunteers, although they were very energetic, I hear. But this last Athens Clean Sweep we had about over 100 people out. It was very well organized with a few organizations on campus, and we ended up picking up over 220 bags of trash. So it's just basically a chance for people to get involved in their local communities.
Would this go along what we call the highway beautification programs? I mean, is that part of what this program would involve, where people go out along the highway and pick up some garbage?
It's definitely along the lines of Adopt a Highway. In fact, we've been throwing around some ideas about Adopt a Street campaign within the city of Athens. A lot of people take pride in what their streets look like, and so we thought about that, and so I think we're moving forward in that sense of Adopt a Street campaign. But also we're going to be having another event is the Great Hot Caulking Cleanup. And that's going to be coming up next month on April 13th. And it's involving everybody from the townships, from way out in the out in the Ozarks into the municipalities, the large cities. We're trying to get 3,000 to 5,000 people out that day in Athens and Fairfield and Hocking counties. So it's going to be quite an event.
How do you go about organizing something of this magnitude?
Well, the Great Hot Caulking Cleanup has almost become a tradition. It started about 3 or 4 years ago between the Ohio River Commission and the Athens County Litter Control Program. And the first year they had it, they got over 1,000 people out cleaning up road-sized public ways. And this year, since the Hocking River starts up in Fairfield County, we decided, why not include them? So it's been very well received, and we're anticipating about that many people.
So is it more than just an Athens County project? It
Right.
spreads into Hocking County and Fairfield County?
Fairfield County. See, all that litter is going to end up in the stream somewhere, and that's going to go to the Hocking River, which ultimately goes to the Ohio River. So it's all flowing downstream, and so we thought if we could not only pick up along the river, but also around the communities and involve them too. So it's going to be the largest single-day litter pickup event ever organized in southeastern Ohio. So we're looking forward to that.
How do you recruit volunteers for this program?
Well, most of the time it doesn't take a lot. People want to get involved either just by placing ads in the newspaper, or just by media coverage, or going around and giving education lectures, which is some of the things that I also do. You give education lectures on before and after pictures of illegal dump sites, and they see how the environment can recover after it looking pretty bad, and people get excited, and they want to be a part of something that's going to be
Where
something
do
special.
most of your volunteers come from? What age group would you say they come from? High school students, college students?
Actually, it's
an older group.
I would say the senior citizens is probably the largest group of people, and then probably people anywhere from 3rd to 6th grade. Ohio University has been doing a great job too. They've had a lot of volunteers out for the last few years, and they do a great job over there as far as their community service programs, and they help out a lot as far as picking up trash.
Do we have some forced labor in a sense in this market too, and that the courts sometimes make that a part of a sentence or a penalty that somebody
Right.
convicted of?
Right. If the judge will give them an alternate sentencing program, which the city of Athens has, we've had several people down doing community service hours through picking up the streets. I think from like December to February, we probably had about 15 alternate sentencing program workers. We picked up a lot around town. I think over 120 bags of trash. But the sad thing was, it was out there the very next week. So it's a continuing problem,
Is it your impression then that there still is a lot of litter going on the highways and the streets?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know exactly how to cure that. I think some of the best law enforcement in the last several years have been doing from children under the years of 8 years of age. So they tend to provide some peer pressure to their parents. And law enforcement for littering is so tough because it only takes a few seconds to throw out a pop can in the middle of the night or in the day. Timing. Oftentimes people cannot catch, law enforcement agencies can't catch them. So a bottle or a can going out the window creates a problem. And in order to unload it back into a truck into a stream only takes a few minutes too. So that's a problem for law enforcement.
Do you think it's important, if you want to encourage people to recycle, to provide an avenue to get rid of their materials, so they're not encouraged to just dump them wherever?
Right. If we can have people be a little bit more responsible about their trash and their garbage as far as recycling and those types of things, it takes a lot for a person to make a conscious decision as whether he's going to throw it out the window or recycle it. And so if you give that person the option of what he's going to do and make it economically feasible, then you're probably going to be able to cure some of the littering that's going to be going on, such as the bottle bill back in 1979 that was voted down. We don't have a bottle bill in the state of Ohio anymore, and so you always see bottles and cans, laying on the side of the road. When those were worth something back in before 1979, and so we find that the bottles aren't worth anything, so they're thrown out on the side of the road. But if they were worth something, people would be more willing to put those in the back end of their car, and at the same time, they'd be more willing to put the cans, the paper, etc., the whole line of recyclables in the back of their car, and take them to the recycling center. Or if they have curbside, they can have it picked up then.
One final question for you, Scott, and that is, do you think that 100% recycling of materials is a realistic goal in the foreseeable future?
Well, that would be a dream come true, and I'd be out of a job. But no, I don't see that in the foreseeable future. I don't think we'll see it. I wish we would, but I don't think so. As much education that's going on, that's just not going to happen. So, although I wish it would, I just don't think it will.
So management of our resources, though, is our best avenue at this point.
Absolutely. It takes 95% less energy to recycle a can than it does to make it from raw materials. So, in every 4-foot stack of newspaper that we throw away or recycle, every 4-foot stack of newspaper we recycle will save one tree. So, we got to keep on preaching and preaching and preaching, and hopefully it becomes a social
conscience
thing.
issue.
Conscience issue, exactly. That people start realizing that we only have limited resources and we need to manage those correctly.
Well, thank you, Scott. This has been Straightforward Conversation with Scott Pauley of the Athens City County Health Department. Good evening.